Arroyo, you ready to roll? Fantastic.
I sure am. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. I want to welcome you all to this incredible debate opportunity. I'm honored and excited to be here with you today. My name is Dr. Maxwell Schnurr, and I have the privilege of being the chair of the communication department at Cal Poly Humboldt, and also working with these amazing students here at Pelican Bay State Prison in the Bachelor of Arts program. I'm honored to also be here with some amazing Cal Poly Humboldt students in Founders Hall 118 who are working on debate and advocacy, and we want to appreciate and honor their contributions as well. I'm going to do a short introduction, and then we'll kick things off here. We'll move reasonably swiftly. One of the key visions we have for the program here is to bring as much of Cal Poly Humboldt as possible to Pelican Bay, and as much of Pelican Bay generosity of spirit and compassion to the Arcata campus. And in the spirit of that, we bring you two debates today, each one about 45 minutes long, between spirited intellectual scholars. Every single participant is a Cal Poly Humboldt student. I want to thank a couple of people and give some deep appreciations. We'll give big shout out and appreciation to President Michael Spagna. It's fantastic to see you here. Thank you so much for being here. We want to give thanks to assistant coach Sydney Afsarzadeh. We want to give big appreciation out to all of the amazing staff here at Pelican Bay who help us out. Rexford, Wallace, Sherinian, and Flores, all those amazing folks. Our colleagues, Mark Taylor and Steve Ladwig, helped to administer this program. And we also want to appreciate Meg Baird, the amazing ASC, who is anchoring our Zoom and making sure that everything works as smoothly from the Arcata side of things as possible. We also want to thank Magana, who has helped us get the podium liberated from the chapel, also to print the amazing Cal Poly Humboldt logo and sustains that spirit, and is also helping us time the debate today. We want to give thanks to you. I want to spend a special appreciation out to one of my all-time favorite people at Cal Poly Humboldt, Dr. Aaron Donaldson, who is the debate coach and one of the amazing intellectuals on campus. And we want to thank you for your contributions and behind-the-scenes work to make this happen. As we strive to amplify voices, we change history by challenging narratives and making new stories corrode against the old ones. And today, in that honor, I'm going to ask two folks to say hello to y'all, and then we're going to dive right into the debate. I want to ask Antonio, who's going to come up and say a little something, and then I'm going to introduce Supervisor Arroyo, and then we're going to get going.
Good afternoon. My name is Antonio, and on behalf of all of us here, we would just like to acknowledge, take this educational space and acknowledge the struggle of the Palestinian people. We stand in solidarity with them, and yeah, thank you.
Our judge for today's debate is Natalie Arroyo, a member of the Humboldt County Board of Supervisors representing District 4, which includes my fair city of Eureka, California. She is also faculty in the Department of Environmental Sciences and Management at Cal Poly Humboldt, and has a degree in political science and a master's from Cal Poly Humboldt in environmental science and management. We want to thank and appreciate Supervisor Arroyo for being here with us today. Did you want to say hello to folks and introduce yourself?
Thank you. Yes, nice to be here. I'm Natalie Arroyo, and I'm coming to you today from, I know it looks like it might be my living room, but I'm inside the Humboldt County Courthouse where my office is. Very excited to be here today. I get the pleasure of teaching environmental conflict resolution, and the topics you've chosen today to talk about are right up my alley, where they're complicated, there's no easy answers, and I know that you've done, all of the participants today have really done their work to understand these issues deeply. I can't wait to hear what you're going to say about them, and how you're going to work to convince me and make compelling arguments. This is a hard task. I do a hard job where I have to make difficult decisions, and sometimes there are no right answers or no straightforward answers. So that is part of my work, but I also want to acknowledge that I will likely struggle to pick a winner, and I know that you've all signed up for this. So thank you for having me. I also want to mention I'm an officer in the Coast Guard Reserve, and I've been a veteran and officer for the last 14 years. So that's another hat that I wear, something I'm very proud of. And yeah, that's a little bit about me, and looking forward to hearing from you.
Thank you so much, Supervisor. I really appreciate you, and I will welcome our first speaker, Mr. Navarro.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jaime Navarro, and today I will be giving the affirmative construction. He said, for well over 250 years, colonial logic has made us believe that encroaching, imposing, infringing, trespassing, or invading sacred native indigenous cultural lands for the purpose of growth and development is part of a divine plan to utilize all natural resources as means to bring us into a modern world of self-preservation. The affirmative desperation to act now are yells which indigenous people have heard before. However, this logic is categorically flawed and part of an imperialist agenda to appropriate land and the natural resources that these lands hold for the real purpose of capital gain. Wind farms are packaged and marketed under the guise of renewable energy and sold as a solution to the unsustainable use of fossil fuels. The construction of large wind turbines serve as markers or pillars that fortify the settler colonial logic imperialist agenda. The colonial logic, which justifies the invasion and occupation of indigenous land while they extract all natural resources, is really harming those communities and keeping them from the right to self-determination and sovereignty. We have to look at the big picture here. The harnessing of wind energy to be sold for profit. That is the product. Sustainability is the pretty label on the package. While often presented as a clean and sustainable solution to climate change, wind energy in practice creates serious harm. Environmentally, economically, socially, that outweigh its own intended benefits. Let's begin by defining key terms. Wind energy is the use of turbines to convert wind energy into electricity. Harm refers to significant negative consequences, whether ecological, economic, or human, that outweigh the benefits. Good implies net positive outcomes, particularly in the areas of environmental sustainability, social justice, and long-term viability. We present our case with three main contentions. Contention number one, wind energy causes environmental degradation. Wind energy is often called clean, but the image ignores its widespread ecological footprint. Wind turbines kill over 1 million birds and bats each year. These deaths disrupt ecological systems and contribute to biodiversity loss. Turbines require land clearances, which lead to habitat destruction, deforestation, and erosion, especially in rural and remote areas. Turbine blades are made from composite materials that can't be recycled and are already piling up in landfills around the world. The environmental toll is often omitted from the public narrative. If we're truly concerned about the planet, we cannot ignore the fact that wind energy sacrifices ecosystems for intermittent energy production. Contention number two, wind energy is unreliable and economically insufficient. Wind is inherently intermittent. It doesn't blow on demand. This means wind cannot serve as a stable primary energy source without backup from fossil fuels. Grid operators must maintain fossil fuels plants on standby, often running inefficiently to fill in gaps when the wind drops. This offsets carbon savings and complicates grid management. Wind energy depends heavily on government subsidies. Without them, many wind projects would not be economically viable. These costs are passed on to taxpayers. Countries that heavily invested in wind, like Germany and Denmark, have some of the highest electricity rates in the world. Meanwhile, blackouts and instability remain a growing concern in wind-reliant regions. Rather than solving energy insecurity or reducing emissions, wind energy has created an unstable, expensive system that fails to deliver consistent results. Contention number three, wind energy infringes upon indigenous land and sovereignty. Wind energy development often occurs on lands with deep cultural, spiritual, and legal significance to indigenous people without consent, transparency, or fair compensation. In the US, Canada, and across Latin America, wind companies have pressured tribes into land deals to bypass them entirely. In Mexico, Itzamas of Tehuantepec, the Zapotec, and Iquts, peoples have protested wind farms built without consent on sacred lands. In Norway, wind turbines were constructed in traditional Sami reindeer grazing territories, violating the rights of indigenous peoples whose way of life depends on the land. These projects often proceed under the guise of green energy while ignoring treaties, cultural heritage, and the right to self-determination. Indigenous communities are not obstacles to climate progress. They are stewards of biodiversity and land. Wind energy, as currently developed, replicates the same patterns of resource extraction and colonialism that indigenous communities have resisted for generations. Conclusion. Wind energy is not the clean, harmless solution it's marketed to be. It harms wildlife and ecosystem, violates indigenous sovereignty, and burdens economies with unreliable infrastructures. At every level, the harm outweighs the good and further continues to enable settler environmentalism and human-centered destruction of the land. We urge you to move past the surface level perception of assumed wind turbine benefits and begin to interrogate and challenge the colonial subjugation and oppression of all beings. Projects like these only perpetuate violence against the environment, animals, and people. Real sustainability must include environmental integrity, economic logic, and respect for the rights of all living things. With that, I conclude. Thank you. We can.
I think you're muted, Oz.
Which? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. So my first question is, if we can prove that wind energy is the best sustainable energy option, would you say that we would win the debate then? Yes or no?
I'll say no, because at the end of the day, we got to look at the colonial logic of what they're doing to the.
Okay. So then does that mean that you have no alternative energy solution or plan?
We could consider solar. We could consider different alternatives like, nuclear.
Okay,
We could
but
also.
do those alternatives not have the same issues that wind does of taking over indigenous land or hurting the climate with extraction of resources?
Not necessarily, because it gives the agency to the people, the community, and the people within
Okay,
the community.
if there's a way for wind to have that same amount of agency and to prove that wind does not uniquely do more harm than good, and that wind is not a uniquely bad energy resource, does that mean that we could still win?
No, you cannot win because you're basing it on a hypothetical, right? Like I said, wind is indeterminate. So at the same time,
if we can give you evidence that wind is doing benefits, it is doing good for the environment, it is doing good for the economy, and if we can show you that wind is not uniquely doing harm to indigenous communities, would that mean that wind is still the best, and that means it's doing more good than harm?
no, because at the end of the day, it's still infringing, right? These pillars of these wind turbines that are being placed in people's lands, right? Without their
Okay,
consent.
so is not everything on indigenous land, is not every single building put on indigenous land that has been there since time immemorial? Like, what's the difference with wind turbines? It's all on indigenous land, no matter where we put it.
You continue to propagate and promote, right? The colonial logic that it's okay to do this. We don't want to cause.
It's all colonial logic, isn't it?
Yes, it is colonial logic. That's what I'm arguing today. That every time you do this and you encroach upon people, you're causing harm towards other people that at this time probably don't want that type of wind or alternative or anything that's gonna, help them. Time. Thank you.
So do I say thank you and all that?
Thank you.
Oh, wonderful.
It all went away.
Real quick before I give my speech, you guys can hear me, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we wanted to give a couple thank yous real quick. To one, you guys, the Pelican debate team. You guys are awesome. Want to give a thank you to Maxwell Schnooner, Department Chair of the Communication. Meg Bard, our admin support out here, and Dev Texera? Teixeira. The student assistant. Thank you to our panel of judges and everyone who came together to make this possible here today. Sorry about the butchering of names. All right, let me get my timer out and then we'll go ahead and get started. All right, so real quick, let me go ahead and lay out my plan. Congress is going to allocate $30 million as well as climate credits to fund wind right now. We live in a world where climate change is no longer a distant threat, but a present reality. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, has warned that we must cut global emissions nearly in half by 2030 to avoid the worst effects of climate change. Wind energy is one of the best tools for doing that. First, wind energy is clean, renewable. According to the U.S. Department of Energy, in 2022, wind energy has helped over 330 million tons of carbon dioxide emissions not be released. That's equivalent to taking over 71 million cars off the road for a year. Wind is powered by nature and doesn't produce smog, soot, or climate warming gases, and wind energy is economically smart. The levelized cost of electricity, aka the LCOE, a measure of average cost to generate electricity, shows that wind is the lowest and cheapest source of power in the US, even cheaper than coal, natural gas in many areas. Lizard's 2023 energy report says that once turbines are installed, wind energy is free, essentially. Secondly, I'm going to go ahead and say wind supports American jobs and innovation and security. The American Clean Power Association reports that U.S. wind industry supports over 120,000 jobs, from technicians and engineers to factory workers building turbines. Wind turbine technician is one of the fastest growing careers in the country. According to Indeed, it is paid an average starting salary of $27. So that means it's a good starting job as well. Wind energy strengthens national security. Every megawatt of power we generate from wind is one we don't need from foreign oil or gas. The DOE says that expanding wind capacity can dramatically reduce our dependence on imported fuels, boosting energy dependency and stability. Now, our opponents may point to the fact that wind is intermediate, but modern technology is catching up. Advances in battery storage, smart grids, and complementary energy sources are making wind more reliable than ever before. Yeah. Now, the National Renewable Energy Laboratory reports that wind forecasting has improved to the point where utilities can schedule wind power much like they do traditional sources. Now, opponents may, yeah, sorry. They even say that wind is deadly to wildlife, but according to Queensland website, they are the least deadly energy source to wildlife, responsible for only 0.01% of human-related bird deaths. The climate crisis, however, is urgent and global. Wind energy is backed by hard data, it is clean, it's affordable, and it's job creating. A path towards true energy independence is not just a good idea, it's essential. It is, first of all, you guys don't really have any counter plan to counteract it. You say that it hurts indigenous people by taking over their land. That is a non-uniqueness argument. All energy sources hurt indigenous people. You talk about how we keep putting wind turbines on indigenous people's lands. We don't need to do that. We can put it on agricultural land, and it takes up only 5% of what agricultural land would be used for. We can plant crops all around it. You have no counter plan. You have no uniqueness. I would like the judge to throw out the indigenous people's argument, because it is non-unique. There's no counter plan and there's no alternative. No matter what we do with any form of energy, we'll be hurting that, and they have not proved that. That an energy source cannot hurt that. Second of all, you claim it's unreliable. We've proved that we can schedule wind just much like other sources. So that argument should also be thrown out, judges. We have given you cards on the National Energy Laboratory that we can schedule the wind power much like we do traditional sources. Their third thing was it hurts the environment. We have told you multiple cards as to why it's great. It's a we have a couple more for you too. By the end of this century, climate change is expected to put 8 million people at risk of hunger, mostly in South Asia, Africa, and Central Africa. Just over 25 years of additional, in just over 25 years, an additional 250,000 deaths per year will be directly attributed to climate change, and we can't stop that without converting to green energy. They offer no counterplan. They offer no alternatives to this. They just say wind is bad. Well, it's the best thing we have. It saves the most lives. And all of the stuff that they point to as bad is either mitigated, outweighed, or incorrect. So judges, I would say vote for us. Just a little piece of evidence relating to it being non-uniqueness for Native Americans. Yucca Mountain, a nuclear waste storage site in Nevada, is one, on a fault line. Two, it is Native American territory, which is being used as nuclear waste disposal, is non-unique. We do this with oil, we do this with nuclear waste, we do this with solar panels. This is not something that we can change overnight, but this is something we can mitigate. Your argument that says it uniquely hurts them is non-unique. Thank you for your time.
All righty, folks. We'd like to all thank you for this great opportunity to debate with you guys. I have a few questions, if you don't mind. Your depth into this subject is very interesting. Your plan focuses on the guarantee of wind blowing. However, what specific data can you provide to assure us that tons of aluminum and zinc and countless other elements that they're starting to make in those turbines will suppress corrosion being into the marine environment?
Energy payback for wind is 5.4 months of wind turbines running. That is a fraction of their lifespan, which is around 20 years. So in 5.4 months of wind turbines running, it equals a net positive for pollution to energy displacement. So and that's according to Lawrence Berkeley Laboratory.
Has your team noticed that no other sustainable energy option poses those specific threats? Why would we go with
We don't pose
alternative?
We don't pose any threats. Our alternatives, which is on your guys' side to produce, weren't given to us. So it's all speculation. I would like that argument to be thrown out. Thank you, judges.
Does any aspect of your claim rely on the use of fossil fuels, such as the battery storage component you spoke about?
Actually, nuclear waste can be converted into battery storage for wind power that we're doing right now. So another form of green energy mitigation and propagation through our systems.
Does the sun not rise every day?
Oh yeah, definitely it rises every day. If it doesn't, it would be a big problem for solar.
Does the wind not come and go, sir?
Oh yeah, but we can schedule it. The National Renewable Energy Laboratory reports that wind forecasting has improved to the point where utilities can be scheduled, much like they do traditional sources.
Why not go with what we know for sure, like solar energy?
It does more harm, and you didn't give that as a counter plan. You just said wind was bad. That's time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, my name is Steve Corton. I just want to say hi to everybody. I'll be providing the 4-minute rebuttal. Okay, as far as Congress allocating money, regardless, Donald Trump passed an executive order January of this year saying that he will not allow any new licensing, new permits. He wants nothing to do with wind energy. So they can pass all the money they want. It's irrelevant. Wind energy is just not going to happen this year or during the Trump administration. As far as it being creating jobs, it being cheaper, and it making economic sense, that also is misleading. As far as jobs, these are short-term construction jobs. These are jobs that have to do with manufacturing, production, and once these plants are operational, the jobs cease to exist. So that again is misleading. Again, with these wind turbines, I think we forget how much damage they do to the environment. We forget how huge they are. And these wind turbines, they extract natural resources out of the environment. The bottoms of them are made out of tons and tons of concrete. The towers of them are made out of mass amounts of steel, and the actual blades are made out of a rare mineral whose name I can't pronounce, but it's extracted out of China. Do we really want to get into a competition with China about who could dig the biggest hole in the earth? No. Next. Wind is intermittent. Therefore, we're going to need battery storage facilities as backup plans. Doing research for this debate, who did I find out is heavily involved in this industry? Elon Musk. Do we really want to put more profit in Elon Musk's pockets? Elon Musk privatizes, he prioritizes profits over people. No, we do not want that. Another false claim. Is carbon emissions, right? Okay, carbon emissions. Again, how big these turbines are, what do we need to transport them? Planes, trains, and automobiles. What do planes, trains, and automobiles produce? Carbon emissions. Fossil fuel, they burn fossil fuels. So again, a lot of Western stats are misleading. And for that, I feel that our side should win. Thank you.
Can y'all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you guys for being here. I'm super excited to debate with y'all. My name is Sylvia, and I'm going to be giving the first negative rebuttal. So this debate seems to have come down to who can solve better for caring for the environment and jobs, resource extraction, and there was also an indigenous sovereignty argument. I think that there is a lot of ground for AF. They have a lot of good points, but without long-term climate change solvency, the impacts do not last. If we live in a world, and I think we can all agree that we live in a world where energy is necessary, that's the system that we have now. Our economy, our lives are all based around electricity. Wind energy is our best option, and it is the burden of the affirmative, according to the resolution, to prove that wind energy now does more harm than good. I'm here to extend my partner's arguments about why wind currently is the best option we have, and therefore, because we live in a world where we need energy, the best that we have does more good than harm, because we need energy and this is the least harmful way to do it. A point that I would like to bring through that Wes said in the 1NC is that wind currently takes 10%. 10% of current US energy already comes from wind. I think he said something about 30 million tons of carbon being 330 million tons of carbon were prevented from being exuded into the atmosphere by wind. This is like taking millions of cars off the road. And while I need to concede that, yes, it does take energy to transport these wind parks, the impacts of the wind energy that is created far outweigh the transportation costs, the setup costs, the building costs of the turbines. About the jobs, I would like to bring through a point that Wes said. This is a technician job. A wind turbine technician job provides $27 an hour. Wind turbines will provide opportunities for maintenance, repair. These are structures that last 30 to 50 years. They're not, they require maintenance and they require upkeep. I would like to also point out that the affirmative's argument about tribal sovereignty and the impacts of energy on tribal nations, the impacts of energy development, this was not addressed in the rebuttal. And so I'd like to pull forward Wes's and Oz's points that no matter what energy source we use, we unfortunately, these impacts based on the infrastructure we have now, these will occur whether you're using solar, whether you're using fossil fuels. But I would like to argue that wind is the least damaging because, as Wes said earlier, it can be built on existing agricultural land. This helps us mitigate the impacts. And there is an important reliability argument, but since wind is already becoming more integrated into our power grid, we have these battery backup systems for when to store energy when wind is blowing and to then use it from those battery backup systems later. This is a very effective way of mitigating the intermittency of wind. There are issues with solar that I could get into, but it's a little too late in this debate for those. I think that they came too late, and I would like that to not be considered as a viable alternative. I think that's time. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here.
Are you guys ready? Okay. First and foremost, it's an honor and pleasure to be here to share the space with you. My name is Daryl Baca, and I will be doing the 3-minute affirmative summary. My main 3 talking points I will be addressing are how wind turbines affect us environmentally, economically, and socially. In this round, my classmates have already demonstrated what wind energy is often marketed as clean and sustainable. Our argument is that it causes more harm than good when fully examined. Let us now briefly review the core of our costs. Number 1, environmental harm. Wind turbines kill over 1 million birds and bats annually, including endangered species. They also destroy sensitive habitats. Turbine blades are non-recyclable and end up in landfills, again, polluting the earth. These are not minor side effects. These are ongoing, large-scale harms that contradict the image of wind as green. Second, economic instability. Wind is unreliable. Turbines don't work when the wind doesn't blow. We all know that. And this, it forces continued reliance on fossil fuels. This adds to cost and complexity to the grid, not savings. While generational costs may be low, taxpayers show the massive subsidies. And energy prices are more expensive in wind-heavy regions like Germany and California. That's economic harm, not benefit. Third, social and community damage. People living near wind farms report migraines, sleep deprivation, and face declining property value. These are rural and marginalized communities are excluded from the decision-making process. That's not just inconvenience, that's environmental injustice. So and adhering to the colonial logic that we speak about in affirmative construction. Now let's address clash. The negative team emphasized carbon reduction and cost savings, but we have shown that those benefits are overstated because wind is intermittent. It cannot reliably displace fossil fuels. In fact, fossil fuels must stay elective, which cancels out the emission gains. As for cost, once you factor in infrastructure, subsidies, and storage, wind becomes a financial burden, not a solution. Ultimately, this debate is not about whether wind energy sounds good in theory. It's about what happens in practice. And in practice, wind energy harms ecosystems, strains economies, and disrupts lives, all while failing to deliver on its climate promises. This is what colonial logic is, imperialism and capitalism. That's why we urge you to affirm the resolution. Wind energy does more harm than good. And I thank you.
Thank you. All right, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm going to start my very short 3-minute speech just once again by thanking you guys for giving us our first real debate opportunity. This has been an excellent debate. You guys raised some really, really good points. And it's going to be my job here in the last 2 minutes and 45 seconds to sum up this debate and tell you, the judge, why I think we've won. So first, I'm going to point you back to the resolution, which was that wind energy does more harm than good. And the burden that the affirmative side here has to prove is that wind energy does more harm than good. And that is indeed a very heavy burden. I think they've done a remarkably good job of explaining to us why wind energy does some harm. And it's true, we have to concede that they do some harm. However, the resolution states that they have to prove that wind energy does more harm than it does good. And that's something that I think they just did not do to the extent that they needed to win. So what the judge is going to be weighing this debate on here is two things. First, if the affirmative wins this debate, it's going to be because they've proven that the short-term temporary impacts of things like tribal sovereignty, things like bird deaths, outweigh our long-term climate impacts of not having any wind at all. We're going to win this debate if we can show you why. First of all, wind solves for a much bigger impact, that impact being the climate change problems. Yeah, well, that's how we would win this debate. And so I think we do win this debate. I think you should vote for the negative in this debate because we have proven that there is a bigger problem that needs to be solved. That's climate change. It's true that birds, tribal sovereignty, these things are a problem, but they're not unique to just wind. They're going to happen anyway. And they did not offer any clear counterplan as to what they would do to solve that. And what we presented to you was a much bigger problem of climate change. All of that stuff doesn't matter if the world ends. And wind offers the best solution, as my teammates have shown you, the best solution towards fixing that. So with that, Judge, again, I'm going to ask you to vote for the negative in this debate because, quite simply, wind is the better solution to the bigger problem. And that's my time. Thank you.
I think a big round of applause to all the debate participants would be fantastic. And we'll pass it over to Supervisor Arroyo.
Thank you. First of all, wonderful job to all of you. I can tell you've spent a lot of time preparing and working together so that you could construct arguments together and kind of bounce off other people's ideas, which is a really important skill. I also saw some really good use of the time available. And I want to go through kind of step by step and outline some of the highlights that I took away. I took quite a few notes. So I'll start from the top. Jaime, I really appreciated the coherence of your speech. It was very clear and concise. I really appreciated that you let me know how you outlined what you were going to talk about, and then you talked about each piece in a very clear and compelling way. I found myself very convinced by your tone of voice and confidence that you brought into the debate right off the bat. Right after that, we heard some good Q&A, although there was some interrupting, which I found a little hard to focus on the arguments being made. At that point, I did hear a response about solar, and I'll come back to that in a moment because that was introduced pretty early on. But again, that back and forth was what I took away from it was that it was hard to hear the complete thought in response to the question. Moving along to the next piece, it was really interesting and well constructed, but a little bit less confidence and conciseness in the affirmative. Excuse me, not the affirmative. The alternative to the affirmative, I suppose the negative. And I took a few notes about that. I was not inclined to throw out the items that I was asked to throw out because in particular, and I will say, I'm judging this solely based on your performance, but I spend a lot of time in my professional career talking about offshore wind. In general, I will say that I'm not inclined to throw out the argument that the perspective that includes Indigenous sovereignty is non-unique. I think we are collectively in a moment in time where people are examining sovereignty and what that means for projects in an entirely new way. So I'm personally not inclined to throw out that piece of the narrative. I did appreciate that there was some really good data provided in that component of the presentation or of the debate. Let's see. Give me just a moment to collect my thoughts. I took several pages of notes here. There were a few of the presenters from Cal Poly Humboldt who are in Founders Hall right now, who I would have liked to see a little bit more eye contact and gestures from. I would have also liked to see that from some of the earlier speakers who are there at Cal Poly Humboldt Pelican Bay. Those were just a couple of notes about performance and the way that I was compelled by or less compelled by certain speakers. I appreciated the arguments that were well delivered in the rebuttal. Some really good sense of personality came out, and that's really compelling when you're listening to a speaker, especially when you have a very short amount of time. I saw hand gestures, a little bit more of a sense of personality in the way that you moved and spoke, and that was really appreciated. And again, I know that nerves play into it. There were some just really concise and well-constructed arguments as part of those the positive rebuttal. And then Sylvia, I appreciated that you emphasized that need for long-term climate solvency. I really wrote that down. It was a little bit less clear in some of your argument, but I liked the point about climate solvency and the emphasis on battery backup systems that introduced a new component to the idea of wind energy being a solution. Let's see, moving on to Daryl, I really appreciated that tone of voice, natural and comfortable, the sort of natural gestures. It felt as though I was listening to someone who was very at ease with the subject at hand. And you really laid out the environmental, economic, and social aspects. And then lastly, Gavin, I appreciated the way that you summed it up, raised some good points at the end about, you know, the good that you saw in the other debaters' perspective that I found really, you know, it's nice to give credit where credit is due. And you know, really made the case that climate change is the bigger issue here, and that's what's at play. So with all that, I will say that I came here with a very open mind about this debate. And just based solely on what I've heard today, the way that the arguments were constructed, the way they played off one another, and how clear and compelling and concise the arguments were, I didn't hear enough clear information from the students in Founders Hall to select you as the winner of this debate. And so I will go with the students who are there at Pelican Bay. Congratulations.
Supervisor Arroyo, I want to thank you so much for your incredible feedback and support and willingness to be here today with us. And I think the winners of all of us are the learners who got a chance to have an amazing opportunity to learn more about wind energy and incredible intellectual engagement. I want to just thank the folks there. We've got a second debate coming up that's scheduled at 2 o'clock. We want to give a chance for a quick pause. I will also say that College of the Redwoods graduation is happening here at Pelican Bay today as well. And so there are students who have just graduated with their AA degrees who are sliding into the classroom at this point. So we want to just, you know, we've got a little bit of motion happening today. But if it's okay with y'all, we'll take a little pause, give folks a chance to get a drink of water, and then come back at 2 o'clock for the next debate. Does that seem okay?
That sounds great. Congratulations to the graduates, recent graduates.
Yeah. We'll see y'all at 2 o'clock promptly. Hey, Arcata folks, how are y'all doing? Founders Hall 118 comrades, how y'all doing?
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you, Charlie. All right. And we are basically ready whenever y'all are. At a moment's notice, y'all can just take the stage and do the second debate. I'm gonna get in the back ready. 6 columns for the flow, y'all. Let's see how you talk notes. On the rail.
We're still waiting for some people to come back.
Six columns, y'all. 17 paper. Six columns.
Ready whenever you guys are.
All right, I think we're ready to roll.
Okay. Once again, I would like to give a really quick thank you to just everybody who made this debate possible. And we're just so excited to be here debating with you guys. And we hope that this is going to be a great second debate. So, who would win in a fight to the death between 100 men and one gorilla? This question has recently become a viral meme. The real question is, why are we reducing living beings to objects for entertainment and commodity, especially at the expense of their safety? In this debate on zoos should be banned, we as the affirmative say that as long as we value human lives, we also value the lives and the rights of animals. Therefore, our plan is to ban zoos by having the U.S. Department of Agriculture revoke the licenses that they give zoos within 10 years. And under the Animal Welfare Act, we would instead only permit research facilities that do not publicly exhibit animals. And we would do this so that we can protect the animals that cannot be reintroduced into the wild and to promote research that would further protect the lives of animals. As many animals and zoo employees as possible would be relocated to the research facilities, but we do concede that there would be a lot of drastic short-term damage in the closure of hundreds of zoos around the country. However, we're here today to tell you that there is no sum of money and no commodity so great that it can rationalize the lifelong suffering of animals. We recognize that what we are asking for entails a radical cultural shift towards having deeper empathy and respect for animals, but in the long term, it is more than worth it because it is the right thing to do. We're going to go over two major points: animal health and well-being and animal-human interaction. Under the first point of animal health and well-being, we're going to look at health conditions, space, and social interaction. Under health conditions, a study from Brigham Young University from 2021 tells us about zoochosis, which is a condition that affects captive animals, entailing rocking, pacing, and self-harming behaviors. It is a result of overstimulation, stress, and boredom. It is also exhibited by every single captive elephant, whale, dolphin, and primate. Also from this BYU study, it tells us that the infant mortality rate for captive animals is as high as 65%, especially, again, for elephants, whales, and great apes. Overbreeding is a huge problem in zoos. Harambe's grandma had 17 babies in a much shorter time frame than wild gorillas do, and that's from nonhumanrights.org. Tilikum is one of SeaWorld's Shamu orcas, and he was bred 21 times, and 11 of his children died before he did. That's from SeaWorld of Hurt. Both of these studies tell us also that this overbreeding leads to the rejection of babies by their mothers and harmful lives for both the baby and the mother. Inadequate diets in zoos can also be detrimental to animal health because they differ from their natural diets. Our second point under the main point of space, tigers and lions have about 18,000 times less space in their captive enclosures than what they would have in the wild, and polar bears have 1 million times less space. Wild orcas swim up to 100 miles a day and dive up to 800 feet, yet no orca tank measures longer than 220 feet or deeper than 50 feet. That's also from the BYU report. According to the National Apartment Association, the average American apartment is 916 square feet. If you went from living on that apartment to one that is 18,000 times smaller, you would be living on 5/8 of a square inch. That is the size of your thumbnail. That kind of reduction is unquestionably inhumane. And I also do want to acknowledge that many people here probably have firsthand experience with this kind of inhumanity. This reduction in space can lead to health conditions, including foot diseases and arthritis, which are painful, lifelong conditions that would affect these animals for their whole lives. In terms of social interaction, wild gorillas choose who they interact with, but in captivity, they are forced to live with whoever is assigned with them. And when their friends are removed, they don't understand what's happening. So if we look back at the rest of these health issues, some animals are clearly more affected by these issues than others, and we can see that usually these ones are the ones that we consider to be more intelligent and thus more like us. Zoos display these animals that we identify with because we are more likely then to want to come and see them. If they are like us and we value our own lives, we should value theirs much more than we currently do. Our second major point is animal-human interaction, and we're going to look at aggression and disease transfer. Under aggression, on May 28, 2016, the day after his 17th birthday, Harambe, a western lowland gorilla, was shot and killed at the Cincinnati Zoo after a little boy fell into the gorilla enclosure. This is an example of human irresponsibility around animals, lethal force against supposedly protected endangered animals, and danger to both humans and animals when they are interacting in this close proximity. BYU says that this is not a unique instance either. Orcas are far more aggressive towards humans in captivity than in the wild. In terms of disease transfer, in recent years, birds enclosures in zoos have been closed or extremely limited to limit the risk of humans giving it to birds and for birds giving it to humans. From the American Association of Zoo Veterinarians, risks of zoonotic disease can be markedly reduced by avoiding direct animal contact. Science Direct says that zoonotic diseases are increasingly dangerous, originate from human-wildlife interactions, and rapidly changing environments. So therefore, it will increasingly be devastating to humans and animals, and will get worse with climate change. It is bad and it is getting significantly worse. So to really get into the grit and weigh the significance of the devastating suffering that animals in zoos experience against the entertainment value and commodification of their suffering, I leave the judges with this question. 10 years from now, what will matter more? The next generations being able to see animals up close, or the next generations having a fundamental respect for the complex, intelligent living creatures that we share our beautiful planet with? Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Saulo Jacobo. I'll be the cross examination. Do you believe banning zoos will lead to an expansion on the black market for exotic animals?
No.
Why is that?
Why don't I believe so?
Yes.
I don't think that there's anything that proves that it would. Like,
Are you condoning banning zoos through some type of PETA critic stance?
could you repeat
PETA?
that question?
Are you condoning banning zoos through some type of PETA critic stance?
That like we're saying to ban zoos for like animal like safety?
Yes.
Yes.
Did you know that they have no environment? And right now, as I'm speaking, their land is being destroyed because they need the land to dig out minerals so they can build cell phones. And we know that that's a big market. So do we let the animals go extinct?
We would promote research facilities that would work towards conservation efforts outside of what is supposedly being done by zoos.
That's pretty much a zoo right there.
You're saying
That's
that
what-
it's a zoo because it does conservation?
Say that again. Excuse me. Say that again.
I'm just confused on what you were asking.
Now we're done. I want to give a shout out to Heather and my family, everybody at home that's watching. I love you guys. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Frank Escalante, and my colleagues and I are here before you today to make the rightful claim that zoos should not be banned. I think before I make my team's claim, understand we were talking about zoos here and define them as members of the American Association of Zoos and Aquariums. Because we are not talking about any old zoo that can be called a zoo for either profit or media attention, such as the infamous Tiger King, Joe Exotic, AKA a roadside attraction. We are talking about the ethical evolution of zoos. And doing so, let's not be confused here when the team examines the claim of the American Association of Zoos and Aquariums. Also noted, there's 200 of them, over 200 of them in the United States. In fact, our team's position in this matter is that zoos should be reformed instead of opposition's invention where strategical evidence is placed that zoos should be banned. Our stance is that zoos become ethical. They become effective and efficient in addressing our most controversial three main point topics. 1, extinction. 2 is mimicking the animal's ecological environment. 3, the research and furtherance that animals of this planet are in the state of well-being and taken care of. To take our position from this, our first point is to come to terms that the world is now in the current phase of the 6th extinction. A worldly known fact published in the 2016 TimeMagazine.com article, where Dr. Robin Gadzert, who holds a PhD and CEO of the American Humane Society, quotes from Elizabeth Kolber, who has a Pulitzer Prize 2015 winning book of the same name, who has coined the term the 6th extinction that demonstrates, unlike the 5 preceding die-offs, which precipitated by natural events, such as those killed off by dinosaurs, exterminating 3/4 of all species on the planet, this current mass extinction is a result of human activities encroaching on wild spaces. According to discoverwildscience.com, these human activities include, but are not limited to, habitat loss, climate change, pollution, and poaching, which are erasing species at a rate 1,000 times faster than natural background levels. As to data this year, the Center of Environment and Welfare claimed that there are over 42,100 species threatened with extinction. Numerous animals, such as the Blackfoot ferret, the California condor, or the Arabian oryx. Which brings me to my next point, right? That zoos are diligent in their conservation efforts. And what that means is extremely important to mimic the animal's ecological environment. Take, for instance, the Center of Environment and Welfare demonstrates that the Bronx Zoo, right, which features a 6.5 acre space for gorillas that imitates the Congo rainforest, and that hosts 15 gorillas, and is a prime example of mimicking the ecological environment. In addition, which brings me to the last point, right, argument 3, that zoos are essential in research and cumulative efforts that serve vital for animals' well-being. The very best zoos are institutional and the transparent community, improvable rating, and always putting animals' needs first.
Zoos provided controlled environments where scientists can study diseases and develop veterinarian techniques and test conservation strategies. Take, for instance, Elizabeth Colbert documented the Sumatran rhinos, which are a small and endangered species, where there are 5 deaths on this planet. After many false starts, Sumatran rhino Emmy birthed Susie and a male named Hairpin. All of this happened in the Los Angeles Zoo. They're pretty much the only rhinos born anywhere in the last 30 years. Thus, the research has compelled conservation efforts that goes to include every animal in the zoo carrying a unique set of genes, like a precious code that can help its species survive in future challenges. And with that, some zoos can even freeze sperm, eggs, and embryos, creating frozen zoos that act as the generic libraries for the future. The measures may sound futuristic, but necessarily we are debating this topic. There are already scientists reintroducing the extinct in the wild, giving hope that extinction isn't always forever, while at the same time promoting life. In conclusion, we take your stance in banning zoos. We not only give animals a death sentence, but we open up the black market where the opposition is increasing the problem and not solving it. Thank you. We're gonna ask the questions. So, yeah.
Good, okay. So, can an inherently exploitative system ever be reformed?
I think I honestly, yes, I think so.
Okay. How many how many species of animals have zoos saved in the past?
I think, as I mentioned earlier, right? 3 of them. We can know for sure.
Is exhibiting animals to the can it be ethical to exhibit animals to the public for human entertainment?
I think those are 2 questions right there, right? So I propose in this stand, our claim is that ethical evolution, right? And that's the institution where zoos have to abide by the ethical standards. You know what I mean? For it to be, it's more of a learning experience than anything else. And we're talking about the safety, we're talking about the animal itself. I mean, just for entertainment purposes, you're coming up close to an animal, and that's the entertainment you get it to. You're not making it do tricks or anything like that.
Okay. Can zoos replicate the environment or the large habitats of, say, tigers and lions, where their current enclosures are 18,000 times smaller?
I believe they can. They did it with the gorillas. Why can't they do it with the lions or tigers?
Does the education that zoos give, is it biased and commodifies animals?
No, I do not think it's biased.
Okay, thank you. That's my time.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. It's wonderful to be with y'all today. It's an honor and a pleasure to debate with you guys. I'm really stoked. I want to start off. My name is Evan Moreno. I am the 1AR. I'm the first affirmative rebuttal. A couple of things happened in this debate so far. We're talking about the value and efficacy of zoos. We're talking about the space and how much they should be reformed or expanded, if they can be reformed, which I would argue they cannot. Even a 100% increase would only be a fraction of what an animal in the wild would need. And when the impacts of not having said space regarding overbreeding, infant mortality, parents neglecting their kids, well, they are not really able to be reintroduced, arguably, as a result. And so this does not contribute to conservation as much as the other side may argue. In fact, they do more harm than good. And as large and successful zoos get, they are still incentivized to be profit driven, because that's how they make revenue apart from taxpayer dollars, which according to Canopy Strategic Partners consulting firm, they get anywhere from 5 to 50% with a 25 to 28% average. And what it really comes down to is how these zoos' priorities are aligned. And this comes down to why they should be banned. For example, San Diego Zoo is one of the it's considered like the peak zoo. It's considered the quintessential example of a zoo that sets the best example supposedly for the rest of the country. And it just approved a $300 million parking garage project. So this is kind of to paint the picture that they are not focused on animal rehabilitation, conservation, anti-extinction, and animal well-being, that they are focused on exhibition. And so we should consider that in the argument of whether or not to ban zoos. We would argue that zoos are also not necessary. Did I just turn off the mic? Okay. Thank you. My bad. That zoos are also not necessary for the reintroduction of endangered species into the wild. We would argue that it is impossible, as the neg would argue, for zoos to become ethical, effective, and efficient, because of these inherent limitations and the system that we set up. That the education that they would put out is inherently intoxicated with this profit motive, in how these animals are not acting how they would in the wild. They cannot be diligent with conservation, and they can never be diligent with conservation because of the way they're funded and the way that they spend those funds in the first place. For example, the San Diego Zoo, again considered the quintessential zoo, claims conservation is being taken up almost all of his expenses, but at least half of those, if you look on the financial reports, which are published publicly on their website, are salaries and benefits. And the remainder, a lot of that is for events and maintenance. Why do we have a middleman who just why do we basically have an insurance agent who takes up all of these conservation dollars and spends it on themselves, rather than going towards anti-extinction and protection from poaching, research facilities, and a more psychologically and socially healthy view of animals is a much more impactful way of protecting them. Because the way things are now, even if we reform zoos, am I at time? Okay, thank you.
Take my hands a little bit. Hi, good day, everybody. My name is Michael Anthony Mariscal, Mariscal. So I think there's a problem with the definition of zoo, right? the opposition has laid out this a wide range of problems with these captivity or so-called zoo places. But these places that you're talking about, as far as the American Zoo Aquarium Association, I mean, they're not even accredited places. So I mean, we're not gonna talk about anything that's not accredited, because there's always gonna be bad actors. And whether that's the healthcare system, school system, right, there's always gonna be bad actors. So that criteria right there is it's not followed through. So I use that term a lot, animal attractions, roadside attractions, just so that we could get an understanding that anything that's not accredited, any place is not accredited, it should be thrown out. The opposition had pointed out that all zoos with the same brush, they're depicting them as cruel, profit-driven, outdated prisons for animals, basically, and their arguments are kind of extreme, unrealistic, and they ignore the complex reality that we live in with extinction, environmental loss, or habitat loss, and I think it was overstated as far as some of the aggression factors in these places of animal attractions. So we can see that, or we can also understand that what they're asking for is reform. They're not asking for, the argument of this debate is to ban zoos, right? So if we take the lens that I'm telling you about accreditation, then the zoos that we're talking about that are accredited, they're not experiencing these extreme problems that they're laying out here. The argument over entertainment and profit, that's misleading. The world leading zoos are nonprofits, mostly and directly funding global conservation efforts, like the San Diego Zoo, for example, the ones that you brought up, right? They spend millions annually on conservation science and endangered species protection globally. You know, so they actually help with the extinction of animals. There's an oversight and regulation problem. That's reform, that's not ban. The sanctuaries that they offer sound like zoos. And the fourth is the idea that animals should be free and not under human control. Ideally, yes, but we're past the point of ideals in today's world. If we were to adhere to releasing these animals, they will die, right? So freedom over survival ethically doesn't make sense, right? We have to weigh those things out, right? Like the reality is zoos is a problem that's already inherent, it's already here. So we need to better regulate them, as my partner laid out in his affirmative construct or negative construct. Because zoos themselves, zoos that are here, like the San Diego Zoo, are the only defense between extinction and survival. Idealism, not reality. We are here to reform, and the opposition are not solution-oriented, because the only solution they've offered is to basically create another zoo. Thank you.
Can you hear me? If I'm speaking
Yes.
right now? Okay, thank you. I think I'm just gonna start. Hello, my name is Mia. I'm going to be the 2AR, the whip of the affirmative side. And immediately I'm going to say that at this point of the debate, we're having whether we should reform zoos or ban zoos. For our topic, zoos should be banned. As the affirmative, we have stated that in our plan, any zoos that the USDA will revoke any license that is the animal exhibition license, which includes things like zoos, carnivals, marine mammal shows. And this is beyond the AZA zoos. The AZA zoo is just an accreditation of zoos as a voluntary process. It also includes around 2,000 other zoos, including your roadside zoos. And those are also zoos we're trying to ban along with the AZA accredited zoos. You have stated that in the last speech, I'm sorry, that accredited zoos do not have these extremes. Our examples, the Cincinnati Zoo with Harambe is an accredited zoo with our orca aggression and orca shamu shows. That's SeaWorld, that's another accredited zoo. And we have also shown you San Diego with how they're not entirely truthful for where their conservation money is heading towards. How in Evan's speech, my partner, he brought up how they're pushing funds towards making a parking garage instead of focusing entirely on conservation. Our whole thing is that we are not going to value the dollar amount more than the healthiness and the well-being of an animal. We do not want the public exhibition aspect of a zoo. You have stated that research facilities, they sound like a zoo, but under the USDA, they're not zoos because they are not required to have that animal exhibition license. What else do I need to say? Sorry about that. I already said that. I know I'm just standing here. Let's see. You should vote for the affirmative side because we have stated to you how there is increasing problems for captive animals in zoos, including that of illnesses, of zoochosis, of infant mortality, how we are trying to have conservation and mitigate habitat loss, but how can we do that when our animals are dying inside of their zoos? We have also brought up concerns on space and how the plan for reform is maybe also going to involve perhaps expanding the space for animals. But how is that possible when zoos located in urban areas like cities are restricted by the amount of space they may have? This isn't going to, I think I'm at time. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jose Perez, and I will be doing the negative summary today. As y'all could witness here today, my team here made a winning argument for zoo reform, so we should keep zoos open. You guys brought up the argument of zoos being banned. Just right now, a moment ago, Mia just said roadside attractions. You guys won't make any difference right there. So with that being said, let me go on to review our key main points. The extinctions will accelerate by closing zoos, which will, once again, like my colleague Frank said, be the sixth extinction. By the second point that I will review is mimicking the animal ecological environment will give the animals a surviving chance. Because like Michael said, zoos are here. The problem is here and now. It's not something to be thought of in the future. So let's take advantage, and which leads me to my third key main point is the research, take advantage of the research and the furnace of the animals of this planet well-being. Now, like I just stated earlier, your card, couple you guys dropped a couple key points. We are trying to keep zoos open. You guys are bringing up aquarium, a zoo and aquarium association. Those are not zoos. That's just a roadside attraction. The other thing I would like to say is if we take away zoos, then how will anybody be given a chance to see the animals in captivity? Even though they're in the natural habitats are like millions of miles away, how can anybody enjoy that moment in life growing up if we are not given that moment. So once again, thank you for the debate, and thank you all for being here. Thank you. Supervisor Roy, you ready?
I am. Again, fantastic job. All of you really did an amazing job. I did 4 kind of from the top to the bottom of my notes, and then let you know my verdict. All right, so we started with Charlie, and I realize there is a position of strength in delivering the first argument, right? Because you have a chance to really prepare that, really be prepared to make a strong case for your position. And that said, Charlie, you knocked it out of the park. Really incredibly well delivered. Again, very clear, succinct. It was very, you were able to outline Yes. Am I back? Can you hear me okay? All right. My goodness, that was poor timing. All right. We are having some IT issues in the courthouse today. I'll get back to it. Okay. So Charlie, I was talking about some of the way that you delivered your points. You know, you spoke to that change is hard, and I appreciated that you outlined that even the case that you're making would involve some significant change, but then really launched well and effectively into those ethical issues, and landed at the end with that 10 years from now, what will matter more, really asking us that deeper ethical question. Really, just well spoken and very compelling to listen to. Salvador, I appreciated the point you brought up about the black market. That was something that as we went on, I really wished that it had been probed a little bit more, because you brought it up, a couple of different speakers brought it up, but it was really interesting to think about. And I realized that the Q&A part is a little challenging, but I heard some good points raised there about, the desire to keep animals from going extinct, and limiting the black market for exotic animals. Frank, I definitely heard some really good information from you about, how you view this, how your team viewed this as being ethical and efficient, and focusing on some key points around extinction prevention, and the essential component of research. And at that point, I wrote down a couple of questions that I would have had around, research was presented at the beginning with Charlie's statement as one of the viable alternatives to having zoos with exhibitions. So that was another point that I wished had been probed a little bit more. And it felt like your team had constructed an argument, and then hadn't had a time to really address or adapt to that proposal that there be research institutions that were not zoos. So the question about whether an exploitative system can be reformed was brought up next. I apologize, but I was writing really quickly while also trying to listen. And let's see, also the idea of there being a learning experience was brought up here and at the end, but that was something that I had hoped to hear more about or have probed more in that Q&A that followed. Evan, you were in charge of really giving kind of a summary at that point and articulating sort of the key points again after that, the exposition from the other side. And, really interesting to hear some of the focus on that profit motive that you really brought to that conversation. Michael, the case that you made about how there are always bad actors, but there are opportunities to reform was really interesting. I really appreciated the way that you made that case. Let's see, I could tell a couple of speakers were nervous, but you all did a really good job like sticking to your points and coming back around to them. Again, then with Mia, some, focus on that even the best zoos are problematic. So it seemed like there was a lot of focus on the AZA accreditation component back and forth. And it did feel like there were a few missed opportunities and reaffirm that this initial proposal was a research institution in lieu of a zoo for the purpose of conservation. And then with Jose, I heard you, again, make that argument for zoo reform. You did speak to the opportunity for people to see the animals and that learning opportunity, and that their natural habitats were so far away, which was a really compelling thing to end with. That opportunity for people to see and care about animals in the wild that they wouldn't be able to see in the wild. That was a point that I liked, and I wish it had been brought out more. So I do think that overall, the students who are at Founders Hall did a more compelling job of kind of making that key argument. And the students at Pelican Bay, while you had some really phenomenal points, I think you struggled to adapt a little bit to what some of their key proposals were. And so for that reason, I'm going to say that this round goes to the Cal Poly Humboldt students at Founders Hall. Great job.
Love it. Thank you so much for your fantastic feedback. What a moment. Let's have a big round of applause for our critics today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's hard being a critic, but you all did an amazing job. I was just incredibly impressed by every single one of you, truly.
Thank you so much for the feedback. We're going to take this and continue to improve. President Spagna, I can notice that you're still on. Do you want to say howdy to folks? Maybe a little word of commentary if you're into it. I don't want to put you on the spot, but.
Oh, no, I appreciate it. And I put this in the chat as well. I'm just proud to have you all as Cal Poly Humboldt students. This was really impressive. And I also want to thank the supervisor for really giving thorough analysis of it. You all performed extremely well. These are lifelong skills to be able to gather information, to be able to present it cogently. I love the dynamic of the team building on both sides. So anyway, it just was a really, really fulfilling experience today. And I hope you all found it the same way. So just proud to have you as all Cal Poly students.
And as we know, it's, finals week and graduation week, and the chance for the president to take the time to be here for 2 hours is a commitment and an indication of the value I think that the institution has for both Pelican Bay and also speech and debate in Arcata, which we love. Thank y'all so much. If it's okay with y'all, and again, if you're here and you've got a time crunch, we welcome you to excuse yourself, defend your time, but we would love maybe a little chance for just conversation back and forth between the students or any of the audience members if you have questions. A good chance for actual engagement between undergraduates and stuff like that. I don't know if one of us has a question that we want to kick off for the Arcata folks or,
Yeah, campus still on? Yeah, just a question.
Hi, everybody. We all just wanted to know the majors you guys are all of you are participating. Are you communications majors, or is this different things and all came together to form a debate club? Like what is yeah. That's basically my question.
Sorry, we're trying to figure out how we can all get closer to the mic and converse with you guys. Just a second.
My computer.
Yeah, I think so.
Wanted to tell Charlie too. Whenever she did her constructive argument, I thought she was pretty much talking about my life there. I feel like I have zoocosis, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm a communication major, and my minor is in multicultural queer studies. So I have been told that I talk like I am a communication major. So I appreciate that people seem to have felt that way. I also think that I do want to note that our team, like, we've practiced this topic a bunch of different times, and like we have been having a really hard time with it, and we've like researched like AZA accreditation, like we've done so many different things, so it's been so interesting to like see a bunch of the stuff that we've researched and talked about come up from you guys, and then be like, oh my gosh, we talked about this and we missed it, and we prepared this whole other thing. So it's been really fun, and I'm glad that you guys are here.
Yeah, we appreciate being here. We appreciate all of you. It's a great learning moment for all of us. So yeah, seeing all of you the work that you're doing and the arguments that you guys pose, yeah, we're super impressed. So we appreciate your time and participation. You guys want to talk about the zoo debate? So the majority of you are communications majors?
No, she's the only one.
Yeah, I'm the only one.
I think we actually have a majority of people who are science majors. Like I'm personally, I didn't debate today, but I'm biology. Wes, who is in the other debate, he was in political science. I know Mia's in botany. Sylvia's biology. Yeah,
botany as well.
Botany. Like we're from everywhere. We all just, you know, we all came by because our debate team kind of fell apart. We didn't get enough funding last year, and so it was actually kind of sad. And we've just worked as hard as we can to try to, you know, make this a reality again. But yeah, it's been really fun.
I'm Frank Escalante. I was wondering, we could do this again probably, but I really want to introduce like a tournament all through California, through all the institutions. I think that would be kind of pretty cool. My second question is what part of the debate on this side did you find like really challenging or to kind of like pick apart or one of our speeches?
Like in terms, well, I don't know, like just preparing for zoos in general, we had a hard time balancing between like the benefit that zoos do for education and conservation and then the harm that is still being done, because I do think that it is pretty close. And so we've gone through a bunch of different attempts to like balance both, but in the end we decided that the like strongest argument was to just go for banning them all and saying that it outweighs it.
Anybody else?
And Arcata folks, y'all are welcome to ask questions or kind of freestyle comment as well, but you know, it's collective.
Cool.
Hey guys, my name's Trent Dukes. For my offshore wind turbine people, where do you guys really stand on that issue? Because I love sustainable energy all around. And I'm like, dang, how can I talk about against something that I'm for? Do you guys
That's a very that's a very good question. I honestly am still pretty divided on it. I know there's a lot of there was a lot of talk about indigenous sovereignty and what their thoughts were on how it would impact the environment in Humboldt Bay. And I know I really respect Professor Arroyo for providing a lot of really good information on guest speakers on that as well from one of her lectures. Me personally, I don't think that it would be good for Humboldt. I think that there's like a lot of stuff that would be like coming out from coming here from like out of the area that would go back just like in terms of like journeyman and stuff, and how a lot of the and a lot of the environmental destruction that would happen underneath the waters could impact our like fishing and stuff, and our rivers and creeks. I think that those are my kind of ending thoughts about it from before we switch. What about y'all?
How much practice did you guys get in?
I didn't catch your last question, but I just wanted to say that I think that the wind turbines are a good idea because it's like, it's the assembly plant that we'd be getting here. So it's not just Humboldt that's getting the benefits of the energy. It's like everyone worldwide, or not worldwide, but like on the West Coast at least. So I think it's a good idea.
Just don't put it on indigenous land. No, that's all you gotta avoid.
Back when the topic was the offshore heavy lift, when that whole jumble of words, I think that there was a really interesting proposition. We talked to the Schatz Research Energy Center, and one thing that they were talking about was trying to actually speak with the indigenous communities and possibly create jobs for them to be a part of the whole thing, not just short term talking about the ramifications of being on their land, but talking about how can we go about this as ethically as we can for your people and for us, because they brought up how, yes, culture is incredibly important, and we need to be able to preserve that culture, but we can't do that if we as a society and we as a humanity, as a race, don't exist. And so that was something really important that we were bringing up back when that was the topic. But yeah, just bringing the communities together, indigenous and the other people who are building this project, they really want to try to combine everything together to do the best as we can and do research opportunities out here to see the harm that's happening. And yeah, that's my personal take on it.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Question for you guys. Did you guys pick the zoo should be banned topic?
I did. I read it.
Why? Why? What was the reasoning behind? Like,
And 9 of y'all voted for it as the preferred #1 topic in our vote.
I don't recall.
Because how many times do you guys practice for this debate or throughout the year for the zoo one?
We typically practice twice a week, but like since the topics have been announced, we've been trying to alternate. So it's basically been once a week for like a month or something for each topic.
I think we practiced.
I just wanted to ask that because it's like we only have what, 1 time to practice? I mean, not to compare, but it was like, damn. Oh.
Wait, you only had 1 practice? Sorry to interrupt.
Like 1 time, right? Or
Some people didn't show up. I didn't show up.
But with that being said, how is the whole life schedule, like with the finals and everything that goes on out there for you guys? How is it to squeeze in debates?
What was the question?
Like with everything that goes on out there in life for you guys, how is it like a hobby? Is it something that you guys do as a elective or
Yeah. So we're a club right now. There is a class, and there's like a class for debate once a year, and Coach Donaldson, who's watching right now, he teaches the class and also advises the club. It used to be a team at the school, and we're like trying to kind of get that back up and running, but as of now it's like a class and a club, and anybody can come and participate. So yeah.
I just want to say, like, y'all did crazy good, especially for like 1 practice. That was incredible. I think that was badass, and I personally enjoyed Frank's speech a lot. I really dug it. That was really cool. It's a good job, y'all.
I have a question for you guys if you're down. I was wondering, like, what made, like, if a couple of people want to talk, like, what made you want to do debate, and like, where are you finding it useful in your life right now?
I'm trying to think of it, but you repeat the question? I was kind of walking up here when you asked. What made you want to do debate?
Oh, when I went to debate, at first I didn't want to do it, but I seen everybody starting to do it, so it kind of goes with communication. So that's what kind of like got me more motivated by Max, you know what I mean? So that's well, I was gonna ask you, with the one for the zoo, what was your strategy about saying, when you guys said, human contact, and then at the same time you said a research center, at the same time, like, what was your strategy on not making it sound like a zoo? Because without human contact, there's no way you can keep an animal from being extinct. So what was the strategy behind that?
I think like what we were trying to say is that like zoos are like, the assumption with zoos is that they publicly display it's public exhibition, so human contact like from like normal people. But with research facilities, it's much more focused on like only doing research and not like just having anybody come and see them. And so it would basically mean like having these facilities that are not open to the public, like even if you have to pay to get into most zoos, like the research facilities would be like only exclusive to researchers and scientists and like students studying the animals and animal behavior and like doing that kind of research to promote conservation and like that kind of education. But it does mean like getting rid of the contact between like kids being able to go and like look at tigers and elephants and stuff.
Yeah, but I was trying to say, like, 'cause you need to spread awareness, and you still need to make money some type of way, so it's like still comes together.
Yeah, it definitely is complicated. Like that is something that we were trying to say, like that the monetary value shouldn't matter more, but like I do think that there is something to be said about like exposure promoting conservation. But it didn't come up enough, I don't think. But we did definitely, like that was a concern, but yeah.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, question from the audience. Yeah, no, I just wanted to answer about the zoo. Dr. Schnur opened and Sydney opened up a discussion for us to bring up topics that we wanted to bring up. So we brought up topics and we voted on them, and zoos was one of them. Funny story about that. I came in, right, and I came in, I looked at the list, and I was kind of like joking with Dr. Schnur about like, hey, well, how come I'm not on there? And I told him something like, who proposed this crazy stuff? And he told me I did it, so that's why I had raised my hand. So, but yeah, I think being in here, and it is a joke with what I was telling Charlie, that her whole speech and how I could relate to it. It's a joke, but I mean, there's some truth to that joke. You come in here and I mean, you see these documentaries, or we get access to watch stuff on animals and zoos, and there's like the parallel is like super clear, the way they live and the way that prisons are situated. Another point I wanted to make is Dr. Schnur gives us he makes time for us to debate. A lot of movement and all that stuff is restricted here, but during class, he makes sure that we at least have time during his class, and we have a study hall that Sydney runs on Thursday, and we get time to do it there. So we don't get a lot of time, but it's not from a lack of us wanting to, or Cal Poly Humboldt actually making that time available to us. We have to take into consideration everything in here. And what else I wanted to do? So thank you.
Hello, student. I just want to say how lucky and blessed that I am having this opportunity to share this space with you. I'm so proud of both teams. You guys did wonderful. I'm glad and just appreciate you guys for allowing us to be part of your life at this moment. It means a lot to me, and I know it means a lot to our classmates. We appreciate, and we just want you to know how proud we are to be here and to have this opportunity. So one, I wanted to follow up with Jose, because my big thing is time management. We're full-time students. Some of us have jobs, some of us have other programs. I was just wondering, is it is it stressful for you as well? Because I found it very difficult. I got all my work done, I'm doing good, but my whole day, 24 hours is I'm either doing research, doing my homework, doing my quizzes, and then I'm doing these other, I was just wondering if you guys experience the same thing out there.
Yes, absolutely. And a lot of us too, like I know that like Sylvia specifically has had issues this semester. Like she's done so much for our club and like just has done an incredible job all semester. She does so much for us. But she also works like 2 jobs on top of being like here and doing all of this and like doing this like managing from the background. And so like there are a lot of commitments that we have, and so we definitely like we also understand the stress and like feeling like there's not enough time to get things done for sure.
Yeah, but I want to thank you guys specifically, like to make time for us.
Yes,
Like the feeling is mutual. Like I imagine that's really difficult to do. So thank you for spending it on us, and like we really appreciate it. And like this is our first time debating any other group, so like we're really excited to see you guys, and thank you.
I'm gonna jump in here. I have to go. I know nobody like has questions for me, which is fine. I got plenty of time to talk, but I want to say like you both won your debates fair and square. I was hoping, I really came in here fingers crossed, hoping that it would be like 1-1. And that really was how it worked out. So phenomenal job, all of you. Pelican Bay students, I hope to maybe have the opportunity someday to teach my class to y'all up there. So maybe that will come to pass in the future. But great job, everybody, and hope you have a great rest of your dialogue. I gotta go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Arroyo. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, hello, everyone. My name is Jimmy Wright, and the question I have for you guys is, during the debate, I seen you guys on your phone, right? A week ago, we had what was it, a week or so ago, we had a debate about AI. So I was wondering, how much do you guys rely on AI or rely on anything, search, yeah. Search engine.
That's a great, huh? What were you saying?
How much do you guys rely on search engines while you're doing your rebuttals, right? To our questions. It's how much time do you guys, well, how much do you rely on utilizing your phone or your computer to actually access information at that point in time? Because I mean, we're kind of limited to just a couple search engines. So we kind of like work through the process to get there. But like I said, you guys look like your fingers were just going, everywhere fast, trying to, access information and trying to counter what we were going to say. So, I mean, props, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's funny because the last time we practiced the wind debate, the alternative, I think it was like the wind power does more harm than good side was arguing that we should just ban all electricity and all energy. And there was some fun things that we could have argued for, like letting the Amish take over the government and just like banning everything. It was really fun. But I mean, just for me personally, because that's a great question. I use sometimes ChatGPT to like if I have a lot of text that I need to go through and I want to pick out something specific, I'll paste it and ask Chat to find something for me if it's there. Um let's see. Uh I is Donaldson's laughing a little bit, chuckling. Um I do search up a lot, to be honest. It probably made a little over reliance. Not on chat, just on the internet. No. If I need a specific Supreme Court type of case, sometimes I'll use chat to and then look it up after I like get the reference for it, just to cross reference it, because I don't like using chat solely. But I mean, I think it's a neat tool. Huh?
How reliable is it?
What was that?
How reliable is it?
How reliable? It's not reliable for like it's not reliable for anything except getting a name, and then you use that name and then you search up things that are reliable with that name, and then you can get better information. That's my thought.
Hey, one quick question. Were any of you using your phones to keep time, or were you using them to prep for the debate?
Yeah, time and screenshots of information.
Really quick, back to the AI question. I just want to say I'm firmly against it, and it's actually what I'm planning on getting my master's in is the use of technology and AI in the classroom from kindergarten up into secondary and post education. I think it's a tool that is completely like harming our planet, and it's harming our ability to think critically, and it's bad overall. We just know AI. Get out of here. It's bad.
This is for Charlie, right? We want to say that you got a couple fans. I think you laid out your whole thing perfect. You're very articulate, very well spoken. I think that if you go into advocacy work, you got, you know what I'm saying, a good lead in it, and we congratulate you.
All of you.
Thank you. I do intend to go into like education and teach people like specifically like about like critical things and examining the ways that we talk about things affect other people and have bases and like bias, whatever. You get what I mean? And like that oppression and like that kind of thing is systemic to a level that it comes across in the way that we speak, and like a lot of the stuff that our coach does in a class is like examine the way that like those political biases come off in movies, and then when people watch those movies, whether the biases are intentional or not, people consume the biases and then externalize them onto other people. So like that kind of thing is what I really want to do, and I do want to like go into education and be able to teach people those things because I do think it's really important.
One of my favorite messages I got this semester was hearing from Evan, who had asked whether it was possible to have some conversation. And I love that we both got the space for a little bit of debate time and then also some conversation piece. And I want to just honor the complex and amazing intellectuals on both sides of the screen and all the work behind the scenes that made that happen. Thank you all so much for your amazing work. I know Supervisor Arroyo, again, like to get, 2.5 hours of a county supervisor is an amazing thing, but we want to give big shout and appreciation to Supervisor Arroyo for not just judging the debate, but giving the incredible feedback for how we can improve and get better. I expect that when we do this debate next time, and I think I can say for us, we're ready to have another debate at some point in the future. Everybody's going to improve because of the amazing feedback we got. So a round of applause for Supervisor Arroyo. Thanks a bunch to all the amazing folks at Founders Hall. Thank you so much to the Arcata debate team. Shout out to Meg Baird for helping facilitate the Zoom. All the Zoom amazing colleagues, we appreciate you. We look forward to seeing y'all soon. Please have a fantastic afternoon. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.